whereabouts exactly are we, Richard?
Well, Tony, we're sort of in the heart of North Canterbury, Weka Pass, which is about 16 odd k's north of Amberley,
Yep.
northwest, and sort of on the main Lewis Pass road, sort of through to Hamner, and it's quite a nice central location.
Now, you haven't always been from here, Richard. What's the story there?
Well, sort of historically, we've been in the North Island, lower North Island area that was where I sort of basically started farming. Family history, my father's family are from Cambridge, so we've had a reasonably long history with stud breeding. My grandfather and father have farmed pedigree jerseys and racehorses in the Waikato, and obviously my mother's family being from North Canterbury, they were down here and met up, and we branched out. We bought some sheep and cattle places, one in Wanganui area, Mangamahu, which was where I was, and my brother and parents farmed in Hawke's Bay, and we basically sort of sold all that up about 10 years odd ago, and Deb and I sort of took our sort of cut out of the job and decided to move back down here to North Canterbury, which I'd spent a bit of time down here in my younger days, like during school and after school, going through Lincoln and all those sort of things that you do.
Yeah.
We had sort of started that, the Romney stud and Angus stud were sort of based up in that Mangamahu area.
So, Richard, what made you start an Angus stud?
Well, I mean, it sort of originated probably when we were up the North Island there, Tony. We sort of we're running quite a big commercial operation in the Mangamahu there, and we sort of ran 6,500-7,000 ewes, and we were sort of probably putting 500 to 600 cows, commercial cows, to the bull, and so we sort of firstly started the Romney stud about 1990, and we were sort of really just breeding rams for our own use, and one thing sort of led to another, and we started selling a few rams and what have you, and we ended up selling about 400, I think, there in our heyday, but it was sort of the same thing probably about 99 or 2000. We were pretty concerned with our steep hill country that we had there, Tony, that they were starting to import a lot of American and Australian Angus genetics, and I didn't sort of feel that they were ideally suited to our sort of hill country that we had there.
Yep.
So we sort of decided to, I'd already been purchasing sort of New Zealand genetic or bulls, both Angus and Hereford sort of type cattle that were doing well for us, and so we decided to get in and buy a few cows with the New Zealand genetics, pure New Zealand genetics in from up Gisborne Way. While there was still some genetics left, because I was sort of afraid that we might lose them,
Yeah.
I've been getting bulls from Richard for 7 years. One of the main reasons I buy the bulls from Red Oak is the New Zealand genetics. The environment we're in here is a pretty harsh environment, so there's long, hard, either late summers or long, hard winters. So I need cattle that have got like a lot of fat on them. So when I'm buying my bulls, I try and buy a bull that's got like real positive fats in the EBVs, but not that EBVs are everything. Normally your eye can tell you if a bull's going to be fat or he's going to be skinny. So like I try and pick a fat looking bull that has got good for fat covers for EBVs. Because a lot of the so-called American bred bulls, they have the fat EBV, but they're not, their progeny that are tested aren't raised and fed on grass hill country. They're fed in feedlots or grain fed, so it's really not a true perception of what their carcass is doing. The New Zealand genetics, like with that high fat that we have, like getting cows back in calf, they've got to have some fat on them to cycle again in the spring. So, we really need that fat, because we can have some pretty tough springs here. We get the wind off the sea and it's cold, and we just don't get the the growth to feed them.
Yeah.
And so the New Zealand genetics seem to be working really well for us here, and we're weaning calves that are as good as really high growth rate American bulls, and then Richard's taking them and he's putting them and finishing them and killing them, and their finishing is better than a lot of the calves that they're buying in, and they're buying calves in from a lot of places, and he's finishing sort of, I don't know, 1,500 or 2,000 a year or something, and he said like our calves are right up there with the best of them.
And what are some of the main traits that you're trying to breed there?
Well, I mean, I think, there's a lot of little things that, you often don't see on a bit of paper or pedigree, and I try to help our clients as much as we can. Just things like, say, feet and structure and, udders and temperament, and there's a lot of little things that, play a big part. A lot of people say, oh, you don't need anything off the head or anything like that, but if it hasn't got a decent jaw or it hasn't got decent structure, they can't get around these hills, and I like a quiet temperament and things like that. So we're just working on those sort of things. We also get our cows in, and poor performing ones, we've got the numbers now that we can cull off the bottom end, and obviously different people are targeting, whether you want heifer bulls or bulls, people will be targeting bulls for specific jobs, but we just try to sort of help our clients out as much as we can, and we sort of only sort of put bulls up that I'd be probably happy using myself,
Yeah. Dave McKenzie, farming up here in North Canterbury. Whereabouts exactly are we, Dave?
We're at Montrose, which is between Colwyn and Hamner Springs, and I farm here. The property's owned by my in-laws, Bill and Pam Rutherford, and I farm here with my brother-in-law Ben and his wife Jenny. On the farm that my wife Jo and I are farming is 3,500 ewes and 750 cows, and we carry all the replacement heifers through the winter and hoggets.
Fairly big job, and it looks like it runs up fairly high.
Yeah, it does. We run up to, I think it's about 1,000 metres. Yeah, but it's all tussock country. Yeah.
And red oak bulls, are you using a few of those on the place here?
Yeah, we are. We've just sort of got into them in the last 2 to 3 seasons, and we're having a good run with them, they're standing up to the test well.
And that Richard all behaves himself?
Yeah, we see a bit of Rick, and he does, and offers good service and always turns up and has a look at what we buy, and he's always pretty approachable, and only too happy to show you around what he's doing down there.
So how do the red oak bulls fit into your breeding program here, Dave?
Well, here at Montrose, we've only just sort of started in the last 2.5, 3 years, and Ben, my brother-in-law, runs a herd of straight black cows, and I run a herd of Hereford Angus cross, and we're using the red oak bulls basically over the red cows at the moment to get that first cross with the white head.
Yep.
And then as we get further down the track, the straight black heifers are going back to a Hereford bull.
Yep. What do you like about the black whiteheads here, Chief?
I just enjoy the cross cattle, and also the bone and the type, and the cattle certainly stay nice and quiet, and I just think that they offer a lot on the hill country as well.
Yep. And what happens with your calves?
The calves, we sell a couple of hundred steer calves every year, and keep the remaining sort of 130, 140 through.
Yep. And
we take all the heifer calves through and mate as many heifers as we can. We've got guys who are pretty interested in buying in-calf heifers, and it gives us a good pick. Yeah, and it's great to see those heifers go on and be bred as opposed to just getting their heads chopped off.
So plenty of feed about, and the cattle are looking in good buckle?
Yeah, they are. The cows are really, really good, and it's great to see them having a fair go after a few tight seasons. I was pretty fortunate to take over a well-bred and good-performing herd of cows, really, and they've made it a lot easier to get in and get going with them, that's for sure.
So coming from a solely commercial background with the cattle and then going into the studs, you know what you want now when you're breeding stud bulls?
Yeah, well, I think it was a big advantage, Tony, to be fair. A lot of studs, traditionally have been sort of handed down through the generations, and like with both the Romneys and the Angus, when we were doing them, we sort of started from scratch, and we sort of ran commercial herds and quite sizable ones. So I sort of feel I knew what sort of requirements we needed in cattle to perform, and I think it's been very good, and so So my sort of philosophy, we just try to sort of breed bulls that I like to see, the type, and it's purely based about performance. A lot of people today get hung up a bit on EBVs and a lot of the figures that are around. There's a lot of DNA testing and everything done, which is all very good, but there's accuracies and heritability things that have got to be taken into consideration. And to me, it's all about the performance, your bottom line dollar performance.
Bank balance.
It's been very interesting because we sort of spent 25 years breeding, and just sort of selling, weaners or lambs or whatever we were doing. And once we come down here, we've sort of expanded out with a couple of lease blocks and what have you. And now finishing steers on a reasonable sort of a scale, that's really opened my eyes up to, how genetics, different genetics perform, really. I suppose that's the way, with the cattle job that we're doing now. Up at Hamner on the lease block, we've got cattle there doing over 2 kilos a day, and we've got some cattle that are only doing 500 grams a day, and just following bloodlines through, and it's been really interesting.
So some fairly nice looking young steers in the yards. What have we got here, Jim?
These are our leftover steers. We got a cutaway to 5-star in the very start of December.
Yep.
They were landed down there at 500.25 kilos. Which they've been in the yards overnight. Obviously, that's their protocols. There's 90 in total, 40 went. These are the 50 left over.
So what are your plans with the Angus bulls on the place here, Jim?
Well, we aim to produce young cattle that we can get away as soon as possible, early maturing cattle with mothers that can produce a good quality calf every year, I guess. Yeah, thick or thin. Changing to crossbreds, sort of people around the district are saying maybe your cows might be sacrificed, as in feed competition, but that's, if we can get a cow that's going to keep herself in good order and rear a good calf, that's what our goal is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're getting some pretty amazing weights.
Last year, the first lot of 5-star steers were 496 landed down there. This year they were just a shade over 500 at 14 months old, which is not far off where our exotic cattle were in the past.
At 2-year-old, is it?
They're at a similar time. They are. They've been producing really well for us. But as soon as the calf's off mum, they get well fed, and they certainly turn that feed into meat. There's no doubt about it.
So finishing all these steers, where are they all ending up?
A few outfits, mainly silver fern. Dealt a lot with silver fern. They've been very good. We supported Farm Pure program and a couple of other local trade outlets. But we supply a lot of Angus Pure as well. There was a Middle East contract over to Dubai or something like that we were supporting through Silver Fern initially. So we're just sort of keen to be involved anywhere we can, really. Yeah.
Pete Mills, you're with Silver Fern Farms here in Canterbury, and you've been here for a while, Pete.
Yes, I have, Tony. Yes, I'm coming up 16 years with PPCS and Silver Fern Farms now. I started with them as a cattle buyer, and my role is the procurement of fat finished stock for slaughter and for export. We kill at Belfast, just north of Christchurch, and covering mainly Canterbury, mainly Greater Canterbury.
Yeah. Now today we're at Hamner with Rick Orr, one of your good clients. You've been with Rick for a few years?
Yeah, so Rick and I have been dealing together for probably 7 or 8 years, and mainly with the finishing of the steers, predominantly up here in Hamner. And a lot of these cattle are sourced as calves. You tend to get the better quality, the better genetics when you're buying the calves, and they're taken through up here and finished. And the cattle, as you can see today, they're coming through extremely well. The weights are very, very good. We're like a 300, ultimately 320 kilo carcass.
Yep.
this is giving us the ideal range of cut size for our export markets. And that with the Angus cattle, we're using them for a specific Angus program into the chilled market. The chilled cuts go into the UK, and the trimmings have been going to McDonald's for their Angus burger programs. So I find that the cattle that come out of Red Oak, they're a shorter, stockier type of steer. They finish extremely well. They're very thick through the loin. They always weigh extremely well. I think the genetics, especially the New Zealand genetics that are coming through, that are being used at Red Oak, we're really seeing the results at this end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're sourcing these cattle, is it just a bonus if you're getting stuff that is progeny from Red Oak?
I think you start to learn where the quality comes from, and you just keep going back there, and you can rely on that quality for the programs that we need, and obviously the specifications that we require for those programs, and the suppliers that we have, that we take the finished stock for, where the bulls are being sourced from Red Oak, is right up there, and the quality of those animals is very, very good.
And another interesting point there, that you a lot of these cattle that you're finishing now, that you're buying off the guys that buy your bulls.
Yeah, well, we've sort of, that's sort of been a follow-on effect, Tony. We've sort of found that our own genetics, the sort of the New Zealand type, probably a smaller, compact, easy doing cattle beasts seem to be the ones that are finishing well. There's so many little things that come into it, but we've sort of, from the commercial angle, we're pretty passionate about breeding the bulls, and we like to go around and check them and make sure they're performing, and I take it pretty personally. We try to do everything we can here at Red Oak to make sure the bulls go out and, do the job, and following on from that, if I can go out and purchase cattle back from my clients that are buy our bulls, we do that either through sales or on a private basis, and that's worked really well. And we've got several, a lot of good clients that are getting very good performance, with our cattle, and it's been good for me to be sort of part of that, and we can trace some sire lines through and keep a sort of finger on the pulse, so to speak. Yeah.
We had the 8th sale this year for Red Oak, and we sold 32 bulls, I think, this year, an average just on 6,000, which was a good result for the stud. That puts them in about the top 30% nationally in a year when the Angus sales were very, very good. Generally speaking, we had a good clearance, and that would be their best average. And as I said, puts them right up into the top 30%. So, we, as a company, we're very happy with the way the stud's going, and you get judged by your results. We've got a lot of repeat buyers coming to the sale. Guys who bought the first sale are still buying now. They're buying more bulls. They're buying maybe at the front end of the catalogue, where before they might have bought a bit further down. So that means to us that the genetics are working. Richard and Deb are very enthusiastic and passionate breeders, which we need to see. If when you're buying genetics, you need to see that passion, and they certainly have it. We've got buyers that come down from the North Island, Tolaga Bay, the Taranaki. They've been there right from the word go. We've got a lot of hill country clients, North Canterbury clients, through into the gorges a bit further into central Canterbury, and that's harder country. A lot of the clients who buy the bulls are calf sellers, so they need the type of cow that can rebreed quickly on heavier country. So the bulls that Red Oak breed are moderate, meaty, good broody females that can get a calf out to good weights and get back in calf quickly, and that's the strength that we see of the stud. What Red Oak do is they put their money where their mouth is, and they go into the marketplace and they will buy the progeny, whether it's a calf at calf sales or in the paddock. in a private sale or at yearling sales, they'll go and buy their own genetics and pay good money for them and compete in the open market with the feedlots, and so they come back and they fatten them on their finishing properties through a silver fern arrangement. But it's a good fit. It's giving the guy who comes and buys a bull, he's paying a little bit more. The product is fine. He's happy with the product. It's doing the job, but he's getting a bit back from Richard and Deb in the fact that they're coming in and buying their genetics, and that's good business. It's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for everybody.
And the team also expands out into agents, whether they're stock agents or meat companies, accountants, bank managers.
Yeah.
I've got a very good accountant and bank that supports me, and so I think that's pretty paramount. And like my wife Deborah, she does a lot of work, background. I think we're running anywhere between sort of 35,000 stock units in 3 places, and we only run that with 3 permanent staff.
Yeah.
With Deborah as a bit of sort of added help when Jimmy and I bugger off up north or something like that happens. But yeah, so we sort of we're busy enough. Yeah.
Yep. And the sale not too far away?
Yeah, we have a bull sale the 3rd Monday in June usually, and no, we're sort of new in the game, and we're just sort of I think we've had 8 sales now, and no, we're pretty pleased with the way it's been going. We had a very good sale last year, and so we're just sort of just keep chipping away, so to speak. And we normally put up around 35 to 40. We sell a few privately, during the year, like yearlings and stuff like that. But we're sort of getting 110, 120 bulls, on the ground this year, and we will be up, around 150, I'd say, next year. So once we can get our selection up, our long-term goal is to probably sell 50 bulls max.
Yep.
I don't want to get too big, but we've sort of got to sell, and get our clientele base a bit bigger, sell what we've got first, and
Yep.
so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Well, that's great, and we look forward to coming up here on the 18th of June and getting into some of this crayfish and a bit of this Angus beef at your sale.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be great, Tony. Yeah, it'd be good to see you.
We'll see you there. Thanks very much.
Good to go.
For more information on the PGG Wrightson Stud Tour, visit ruralmedia.co.nz.